What's going on, guys? I'm coming in with an absolute banger of a video today. I'm going to be talking about one of the scariest experiences of my life, so lock in. It's going to be a really fun one. Just a bit of a disclaimer due to the nature of this video. Everything you guys are about to hear is completely false and is for entertainment purposes only. What's going on, y'all? I wanted to hop on here and talk about the time that I was potentially followed by somebody. This was a really scary experience and really interesting, and I thought that I would come on here and talk about it on the channel. I don't believe in the whole targeted individuals thing or being gang stalked. That's not what this is. If you're someone that believes that's happening to you, get some help. You probably got the schizophrenia. Corporate and political espionage is a real thing. There are foreign businessmen that get followed when they go into other countries, and depending on certain things that you do or say online, that can be a big part of intervention or people monitoring what's going on. That's nothing new. But this is something different, and I wanted to hop on here and get it off my chest. So at the time when this story takes place, I was working as a bartender and a private investigator. Interestingly enough, while I was working as a private investigator, I didn't really do much interesting work. I did sign NDAs, and a lot of what I did, I'm not really supposed to talk about, or I could be held liable for that information. But most of what I did was pretty tame. I can't picture anybody watching over their shoulder or looking over me based off of something that I did back when I was a private investigator. I had a few interesting shifts providing security for different groups or companies, and working certain events, but nothing important, nothing high profile, nothing that would warrant somebody looking after me. But anyways, guys, you get the idea. Now let's dive into the story. Also, if I sound a little bit more low energy, I am still coming off a concussion, and I'm recording this pretty late at night, and I don't want to wake anybody up. But anyways, guys, I was working as a bartender for a private country club at the time. My job was really easy. I would serve the guests drinks, take food orders if we even had dinner that day, and it was a really easy job. I actually want to make an entirely different video just about some of the stupid shit that I got away with and did, like, on the clock at that place, but I'll save that for another time. But anyways, you guys get the idea. It's a pretty chill afternoon. It's almost summertime. It's a nice crisp May afternoon. The sun's coming down, and it's really slow at the country clubhouse. I got nobody coming up to the bar, and it's not a dinner night, so we're not serving food to the guests anyway. Now, when we would have big events like a memorial or a wedding, it wasn't uncommon to see a bunch of different cars pulled up in the lot. But if it was just a regular day of the week and there wasn't a dinner night, usually there would only be the same few cars, because the same few gentlemen or the same few people would show up to play golf, get the same drinks, do the same thing, and then head out at the same time. I just got used to that routine. And this became pretty important because in order for me to know if I could pack up the clubhouse, I would have to look outside at the parking lot and make sure that there were no guest cars in the lot before I locked everything down, which makes sense. That's just a part of the employee protocol that I had. But anyways, one afternoon, I'm taking the trash out. I wanted to get some stuff done early because we didn't have a lot of people coming in, and I wanted to get home early. I was just trying to have a fast work day, man. I'm one of those guys that's just there to do my job and go home. Nothing extra, But anyways, I go out and I'm taking out the trash, and everything seems pretty normal. There's maybe 5 or 6 cars out in the lot, plus the country club van. But I've seen all these cars before, and I know exactly who drives them. I served them drinks. I greeted them as they came in and out of the clubhouse. I can see them playing golf out in the field. Everything was totally normal. I toss out my trash. I go out. I close the garage door that we keep some of the golf carts in. And we're approaching sunset, so I basically took care of everything that I didn't want to have to do while it was dark outside. And then I just headed back in. I had a book at the time that I was reading. I was just reading that. I was on Instagram Reels, just kind of hanging out by the bar, you know? But anyways, guys, the shift goes on as normal, and there's nothing crazy going on. And now we're getting into the evening time. Like, the sun is just about starting to set. Had to throw the sunglasses on because it was starting to get into my eyes. But anyways, as the sun's coming down, I start to check the golf course, see who's out there, take a look at the golf cart station just to see if there are any golf carts still out on the course. And everything was totally clear. I was pretty ahead on my work for the day because when no one's around, you can just get a jump on the responsibilities for closing time, like really early. So I was able to start wiping down all the tables, putting the bottles away, just getting all my closing stuff done before even the sundown, you know? I felt good. But as the night went on, I got a lot of my stuff done, and the sun wasn't even down yet. So I figured, fuck it, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna rip my cart. Nothing too crazy, but I did have my pen on me, and there was a little garage area, which was kept open for the guys that worked on the grass and maintaining the golf course, and you could just go in there and rip your cart, and you had a pretty good view of the course and the parking lot. That way you can see if anybody's going in and out. As I was hitting my pen, I looked to the parking lot, and I noticed that most of the cars were gone. There were maybe one or two guys left that were coming off the course that wanted a couple pints of Guinness and to just shoot the shit with their friends out at the tables. And I knew what cars that they drove, and they were out there. But there was a car that I didn't recognize. Now, I don't know my cars particularly well, but parked by the entrance, like backed in facing me, was this totally black Nissan Altima looking car. I saw it as I was hitting my pen, and it just stood out to me because I'd never recognized that car here before. I knew none of our members drove it, and we didn't have any events that day, so there was no reason for that car to be there. And if it was a delivery, it would have pulled up to the front. This was sitting like right at the end of the drive to get to the club. And this is a private club, so not anybody can just pull up. But anyways, guys, this car stood out to me. It was a little suspicious. It was a small four-door car, totally blacked out, black tinted windows. And I was the only guy working in the clubhouse that day. There was nobody else there, and there were maybe two guests and two of their guest cars outside. So this was not making any sense. I figured that I was probably just stoned and overreacting, and maybe somebody just pulled into the clubhouse because, you know, they wanted to check their phone, maybe they wanted a smoke spot, maybe they just had to pull over for a minute. But I decided that it wasn't the weirdest thing in the world. People pull into driveways to back up or check their phones all the time. So I just decided that I would continue on with my workday. A few more hours go by, and at this point, it is nighttime. It's pitch black. The two gentlemen that I'd been serving pints of Guinness to had packed up, and they'd left. So those two cars should be gone at this point, right? But anyways, it's a few hours later, and I'm collecting the trash from all of the different little rooms in the clubhouse main building. Like the trash cans in the bar, or the ladies in the men's locker room, or the upstairs financials office, or the kitchen. I just had to make sure I got all the trash out. That way there's less of a chance for bugs or mice or anything like that. I mean, it's simple. You got to take the fucking trash out, guys. Now, after I cleaned out the office, I was in the bathroom next to the office, like the ladies' room upstairs, and I was cleaning out the trash. I turned the lights out at this point, but I decided to look out the window because I remembered the weird car situation from earlier. That one car that was backed up, pulled up like right at the front of the driveway to the clubhouse. So I peel the curtains back and I look out into the parking lot, and there are only two cars in the parking lot. My car, which is parked right in front of the clubhouse, and then that same blacked out four-door sedan that I saw when I was smoking a few hours earlier. This freaked me out a little bit. The four-door car, the blacked out Nissan Altima looking car that I was telling you guys about, it was backed in the very back of the parking lot, and the car was off and the windows were up. I got a little bit nervous because I had to lock up the clubhouse by myself. You know, I remember holding the keys in my hand and looking out the window, just hoping that whoever was in this car didn't try and get out and come into the clubhouse. As spooked as I was, I knew that I couldn't make a big deal out of it because it's just a car in the parking lot. But this was suspicious because this car didn't belong to any of our members. Nobody that golfed here or came to this country club drove this specific car. As I was locking up the clubhouse, I couldn't help but think about it, and I decided to confront the situation head on instead of letting myself get freaked out about it. Now, everything to the clubhouse was locked up except for the main employee door that goes to the kitchen, and this door that goes to the kitchen leads straight out into the parking lot. I open up the employee door, I close it, and I start to walk into the parking lot. I'm a good maybe 40-50 yards from the blacked out car, and I decide to just walk up to it. In my mind, I thought I would just walk up to the car, knock on the windows, and just let these guys know that they're on private property and we're closing up and that they should go home or else we could have them trespassed or some bullshit like that. Now, right after I passed my car that was parked almost immediately in front of the clubhouse where the general public comes in, I see the blacked out car turn on its headlights and I can hear the engine turn on. Before I can get maybe 3 or 4 more steps forward, I hear the engine turn over and this thing just peels off, guys. This dude floors it and just totally books it. He drives right past me to get to the gate and he just zooms straight through it and speeds all the way down the driveway and makes a right. And that was it. I was a little freaked out and I thought it was suspicious, but after all, it was no harm, no foul, you know? I mean, I didn't even see anybody get out of the car, but it was really weird. I remember after I got home for the day, I texted my manager about it. I told him that I thought it was weird, but I wasn't able to get a license plate or really figure out what specific make or model of car it was. But I did tell him that it was strange and to maybe run the cameras back. Now, I thought what happened at work was pretty weird, and it put a weird feeling in my gut. Something just didn't quite seem right about it. You know what I mean? But anyways, time goes on and nothing weird happened for probably 3 or 4 more weeks. So a couple weeks later, I'm chilling in my room and I allegedly text the green man because my stash was running dry. I was taking way too many bong rips between my shifts and I needed to re-up. So I figured I would go on the designated application, the app that I use, and I would hit my guy up. So for probably about 3 or 4 years, I would buy off of this guy and the service was phenomenal. The way it worked was you would just message him what you needed and you would leave the money in the mailbox in an envelope, and then at some point later in the night, somebody would swing by, pull up to the mailbox, allegedly, and take out the envelope and put in whatever you had ordered. This guy was top of the line. I'd been doing it this way for years and I never had any issues. All of the alleged green materials that I was getting was just for me. Like, it was just for me. It would just be for me to smoke in my room, take my bong rips, all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like I was the plug or anything like that. I'm just a guy buying like maybe $60 worth of pot to last me a few months. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, it's maybe like 7:30 at night and I hop on my phone and I text Plugman. I hit him up. I give him a good greeting. We chat a little bit. He's doing good. I'm doing good. Everything's normal. So he asked me what I need and I told him what I wanted. I think it was probably just like a queue of some really cheap Reggie and like a decent cart, because I like to have carts with me at work so I could smoke on the job. But anyways, I placed my order and he tells me everything's good to go. He just says to have the money out in the mailbox before it's time for him to drive out and start placing deliveries, which is usually decently late at night. So everything's great. I place my order, I pull some cash out, I throw it in an envelope, I tape it shut, and I throw it in the mailbox. Now, I'd been doing this for years, and nobody's ever messed with this. I've never had any problems. None of my neighbors have ever been on some shit trying to take my weed. Nothing like that. Nobody's ever been snoopy about what I've got going on. Up until this point, the dead drops were working great, right? But anyways, I get the money in the mailbox, and I go upstairs into my room. And I raise my curtains up a little bit so that I can sit at my computer and play my video games and turn my shoulder over and look directly at my mailbox to see if anybody's pulling up or if my drop has gotten there. So I'm chilling in my room. I'm just hanging out, playing some Counter-Strike, playing some Killing Floor, playing some Payday 2, just all the classic games, right? At this point, it's probably 10:30, maybe 11 p.m., and as it gets a little later, I start turning over my shoulder a little bit more because I want to see if the plug's dropping my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm out of weed. I'm trying to get some more bong rips. I'm getting antsy, right? But yeah, I'm just chilling. It's getting late, and I keep turning my shoulder over to see if the plug has gotten to me at this point or if I still have to wait longer. So some more time goes by, and probably at about 11, I see this car pull up. I see it drive down to my cul-de-sac and then turn onto my street and pull up in front of my mailbox and turn the headlights out. I'm immediately looking at this, and I see this guy pull up to my mailbox and kill the lights, and I'm thinking that it's my plug, right? I'm thinking I'm about to get my weed, right? So I'm looking out the window, and I can't see a face, but I see the window come down, and I see a flashlight turn on. And this guy's opening up my mailbox, and I see a hand with long sleeves and what looks like a glove, like wearing black like latex gloves. This hand sticks out wearing this black latex glove with a flashlight on in one hand, and he reaches into my mailbox and he pulls out the white envelope and looks at it with the flashlight. Now, I don't know if the flashlight was his phone that was recording or if he had a separate flashlight, but I saw him take my envelope full of money and pull it into his car in the driver's seat where he was leaning out of and shine his flashlight on it. And then he puts the envelope back into my mailbox. Doesn't put anything else in. He just puts the envelope back in after looking at it. He closes up my mailbox, and I see his headlights turn on, right? And I live in a cul-de-sac. It's a circular cul-de-sac. And I live at kind of like the corner of it. You know what I mean? So I see this car turn their headlights on, and this guy does a little bit of a loop around to the other end, and then he turns his car off. He parks in front of a car, like across from me, and kills his lights. Now, I was a little bit confused by this because usually after my plug drops my shit, he just dips. So I go outside and I go to check my mailbox, and I see that car just pulled up barely far enough out of the cul-de-sac so it can see my house and my mailbox, right? I walk down my driveway, I open up the mailbox, and my envelope of money is still there. And I look over, and the car that opened the mailbox is just parked up. And this was really weird. It immediately freaked me out, you guys. I just thought it was really weird. The car was a different car than the one that pulled up to where I worked at the country club, but it was very similar. It was another small four-door car with black tinted windows. It was definitely a different make and model, but it was similar in that it was blacked out. Like the car body was painted black and the windows were heavily tinted black. I go back inside and I hop on my app and I text my plug. I hit the plug up And I'm like, hey man, I'm not sure if you missed me or something, but I saw one of your guys pull up to my mailbox, open it up, and I just checked, and my envelope of money is still in there. So Weed Man responds to me, and he says, that's weird. I just texted my drivers that are out for the night, and none of them have gotten to you. So if somebody's pulled up on you, it wasn't us. My heart sinks, and I start to get a little bit more nervous. And I go up to my window at the end of my room, and I look out, and I can see the hood and the headlights and the front of this car that went up to my mailbox, and it's sitting at the end of the cul-de-sac. At this point, I started to get a little bit more freaked out. In my mind, I figured if it was a Fed or something like that, the worst thing I could do is just sit around and do nothing and wait for the drop to happen while this guy is just sitting here, like watching my house. I called one of my homies, we talked about it, he said it was weird, and as strange as it was, I don't know why I decided to do this, but I decided to just walk right up to the car. I threw my jacket back on. I grabbed a pocket knife maybe, as if that would do anything, right? I cross the street, I hop onto the sidewalk, and I start to walk up to this car. By the time that I could really hear what was going on, it seemed like the car had been on, like the engine had just been on the whole time. Interestingly enough, the windows were totally tinted and blacked out, but they were halfway down this time. They weren't down far enough to see a driver, but I could see into the interior of the car a little bit, and it just looked totally blacked out. Now at this point, I'm about to cross the street to go right up to the car and knock on the door and ask what the fuck they're doing at my house, right? I take maybe one step off the sidewalk, and the car peels off immediately, just peels off, goes right past me. This caught me by surprise because the car had its headlights off, and after it zoomed past me, I stared at it, and I watched it go all the way up the main road to exit the neighborhood where there's the main light, like a physical traffic light to get onto a main road. And I didn't see him turn his headlights on the entire time. And I couldn't see the plate. I couldn't get a picture of his plate. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't make out a single detail. But after I crossed the street and I left the sidewalk and I was on the street and this car is parked on the other side, he just immediately peeled off with his lights off, going like maybe 40 miles an hour with no headlights off all the way out of the neighborhood. It really freaked me out. I was kind of starstruck by what happened. I just kind of turned around and I went back into my room. I was watching my mailbox and the front of my house like a hawk for the rest of my night. And my weed guy pulled up and dropped the weed and nothing happened. I went outside and I got my weed. But it was really sketchy. I texted my weed man about it, and he's like, I've never heard of anything like this happening before. This must be a coincidence, which is so stupid. If I was him, I'd be tweaking out. But it was really freaky. After this happened, I stopped buying off of this guy, and I just started ordering THCA, like just legally, like straight to my door. I haven't gone for many walks, like late at night by my house. You know, I used to really only do it when I was getting these kind of like dead drops for my pot, but I'm kind of tempted to maybe go outside and smoke a little ciggy and see if there's a little weirdo waiting for me, you know? But I don't know, it really freaked me out. The more I think about it, the more I think it was maybe like a cop or something. Just because private investigators and private citizens are legally required to have headlights on during nighttime. Like after sunset, 30 minutes after sunset, you're legally required to turn your headlights on. The only people that are allowed to drive at night with their headlights off are state police and federal law enforcement. And when I realized that, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. But I have no idea what the Jakes would be due following me over like $50 a pot. I don't buy from that guy anymore that sold the weed that used to do the dead drops. But as far as I know from my friends that I've talked to, he's still doing the dead drops just fine. But yeah, guys, after this, I never experienced anything else that was weird like this. I'm not a really skeptical person, you know? I'm not like, oh, like tinfoil hat, this or that. But I did work as a private investigator for a decent period of time. And while I was working that job, I did find out how to pick up on things that are out of place, you know, or things that don't really add up, you know, because I provided security, I performed surveillance, stuff like that. So, you know, if someone's on my tail, it's kind of easy to tell. But anyways, guys, nothing like this has ever happened since then. It scares me a little bit. Every time I think about this, I get the chills. It makes me feel like I'm being watched or some creepy shit like that. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you guys have any situations that are similar to this that aren't like totally schizo or like, oh, I'm being gang stalked, you know, like anything stupid like that. If you guys have run into anything weird, drop it in the comments below. I know I'm kind of tired and it's pretty late right now, but I did want to get this story out. But I may end up redoing this one later because I feel like it is pretty interesting. Peace out, y'all.